Hello and welcome to Made in Lincoln UK. This is a monthly social interactive documentary magazine programme reflecting and promoting Lincoln District life and events. Lincoln may be a small city, but we all know that there's a lot going on here. Over the coming months I'll be out and about, exploring and covering the area, building up a vivid picture of the environment we live in. So, to get this show on the road, I thought we'd begin with an annual spectacular event, the Lincoln Grand Prix. The Lincoln Grand Prix is certainly the most colourful event that sweeps through the city streets of Lincoln every spring. Not only is this event attracting ever larger spectators, it also has a national and international reputation throughout the cycling world that this is the race to be in. The race is 102 miles long, consisting of 13 laps around a circuit that takes it in and out of Lincoln numerous times. A popular place for the spectators is the stiff climb up Michael Gate, leading up to Drury Lane and into Castle Square. This is where the cyclists have to really pump the metal and try to maintain their position. Tearing through Castle Square over the bumpy cobbled street and dashing into Bailgate. As they come out of Bailgate, they pass under the oldest Roman arch in Britain and head along into Newport, then onto Burton Road to do the circuit again.
Russell Downing with his hand in the air. He's dropped Peter Blockey. He's dominated the race in its final stages. Russell Downing wins again.
When I think of Lincoln, it's a different place compared to some cities. It's a very, very multicultural city to begin with. So yeah, about it really. It's a good place to live if you've never lived here before. It's very, very historical as well. Thank you.
You want to start? We're at Lincoln University studying fashion. I really like Lincoln because it's really quaint and quite a lot of the shops are quite near to where I live, so you don't need to get on a bus or you don't need to drive anywhere, you can just walk everywhere, it's all just so close.
I like Lincoln because it's a mix of old and new, and there's always new shops opening, and there's also the cathedral and all the old parts as well.
I like the fact that it's not too large, it's a city and it's got this beautiful cathedral, but it's still cosy and it's nice. It's got lots of lovely places to have coffees, theatre, cinemas, everything, and beautiful architecture. It's just lovely.
I have a habit of walking around Lincoln with my camera and just popping in on people and asking them if I could interview them. One morning I thought I'd go to Steep Hill, which happens to have a few artists, and just see what I could come up with. I popped in at the Marine and Wildlife Studio and met Jennifer and started by asking her when did she develop an interest in wildlife.
To be honest, for as long as I can ever remember, I've always been interested in wildlife, and I've always sort of observed wildlife in its habitat within Britain. Birds in the garden, hedgehogs on the lawn, etc. So I've always been interested in wildlife.
So when did you actually get into the art?
Again, for as long as I can remember, I had an uncle who was a commercial artist, and I used to sit and watch him paint when I was just a little girl and join in. And I've always painted, always enjoyed drawing and painting. But I always painted at school, but once I went to a grammar school, I was not allowed to do art beyond the age of 12. So I didn't do art anymore at school, but continued painting at home, and just sort of took it from there.
So how long does it take you to undertake a painting?
That's how long is a piece of string.
Exactly.
Quite often the best paintings take the least time because I've got them sort of very clearly in my head from the time I start, and I know exactly where I'm going. So they almost paint themselves. The best paintings drop off the paintbrush. But to answer in actual terms of time, probably 4 or 5 days for a small painting and considerably longer for a large painting. But if they take too long, you almost ought to throw them away because they become laboured. They've got to be sort of something that's intuitive.
Very rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's lovely. And if it turns out like the vision in your head, then it's extra rewarding. And if somebody comes in here and likes a painting sufficiently to buy it, then that's probably the greatest compliment that anybody could give you, and then it becomes super rewarding. So it's, yeah, I think that's definitely.
Hello, my name's Andrew MacDonald. My job's a potter, and I'm lucky enough to run this workshop and shop on Steep Hill called the Pot Shop. I was lucky enough to be able to buy the shop this year, so I haven't been in this workshop for very long, but I've been doing pottery a long time. I was in my previous workshop 18 years, and I was doing it for 5 years before that, so I have been doing it for a long time. This is but as I said, this is a new venture with the shop, which has got a very visible shop front on Steep Hill, which is very important because it's a great display case for your work, and you're never quite sure who's going to come in and talk to you. I mean, I enjoy working here. The motivation for having a shop is not the motivation a businessman or a developer might have. The motivation is to make pottery. That's the most important thing, is the pottery. To sell an art object is difficult. You don't need to buy an art object. Times are tough, money's a stretch. You need a reason to buy a pot. But there's no sort of secret pots in the shop which I just make and sell over and over again. You have to have, the throwing has to be a high standard, the glazes have to be good, intense colours, the decoration has to be lively, and it has to be competitively priced. You just have to keep working and working and working away at that, and eventually people will kind of realise what you're doing and hopefully like your work. The inspiration is artistic. The purpose for it isn't just as a manual labourer. The purpose for it is artistic. This sort of means of expression. And this is 6 months. No, this is moved here in January. So just now the dust is settling, and it's comfortable working here. Central heating, which your last workshop didn't have, and the lovely shop front onto Steep Hill.
Cooling sewing machines stock a large range of sewing machines from £95 to the latest computerised embroidery machines with software which allows you to design your own logos or motifs. Cooling sewing machines also offer free tuition on all their machines and provide a full range of haberdashery. On top of this, they provide an authorised repair service with a wide range of spare parts and accessories. With over 60 machines and overlockers in stock, and with all the big names all under one roof, why go elsewhere? Cooling sewing machines, 53 High Street, Lincoln.
If you were born in Lincolnshire, you may feel entitled to call yourself a yellow belly. But do you know where the term originates? Well, there's some dispute as to its exact origin, but one source may be an unexpected and often ignored aspect of our heritage, the Lincolnshire Regiment. The 10th Lincolnshire Regiment of Foot was formed in 1685, but saw no action until 90 years later, when it received the first British casualties in the American War of Independence. If you have a look at the uniform of the Lincolnshire Regiment from this period, one of the first things you notice are these distinctive yellow lapels. This trademark of the regiment is thought by many to be the real source of the term yellow belly. In 1842, the Lincolnshire Regiment was sent to India, where it fought in the Sikh Wars, earning respect for its performance. However, it was in the Indian Mutiny that the regiment received its first Victoria Crosses. Many more were to follow over the next century of duty, a century that saw the regiment fighting in the Sudan against the dervishes at the battles of Attabara and Omdurman. These were battles fought in the old tradition of colourful uniforms, standard bearers and bugle commands. However, the fighting itself was far from romantic. Those who met their dervish opponents on the battlefield could expect no quarter, and the injured survivors no more than the most basic forms of medical attention. In 1899, just a year after the campaign in the Sudan, the regiment were back in Africa fighting the Boers. This war marked the decline in the traditional methods of fighting. The highly visible uniforms and tactics of the British Army were no match for the guerrilla warfare of the Boers, and the regiment suffered heavy losses, particularly at the Battle of Nitral's Neck, when over half their number were killed. If the war in South Africa had brought the era of the coloured uniform to a close, the next conflict destroyed all illusions about the glories of war. The First World War saw great losses amongst the Lincolnshire Regiment. During a tour of duty in Ypres, the Lincolnshire 10th lost over 30 officers and 1,046 other ranks. This shoulder badge of the Lincolnshire 10th was found with the body of an unknown soldier unearthed in France in 1940, a small relic of the war that was to end all wars. Unfortunately, this hope was dashed with the advent of the Second World War. The Lincolnshire Regiment was pressed into action with the invasion of Burma and fought in the most difficult of jungle conditions. The regiment distinguished itself in 1944 with an attack on Ramree Island off the coast of Burma, and in 1946 was part of a successful seaborne attack on Rangoon. At the end of the war, this magnificent samurai sword was surrendered by the Japanese commander at Padang, and is now in the regimental display at the Museum of Lincolnshire Life.